My best friend ghosted me after I bared my soul about our friendship. I perceive something went wrong recently, I said. Days later, she read my long message and vanished without a word. Was my newfound confidence too much, or did I scare her away for good? I am the typical nerdy, shy guy. Okay, I do not wear glasses, but you understand the type. I have a great memory for trivia, numbers, and dates. I am very good at mathematics, but quite poor at empathy. I am 1 year younger than my average classmates in school and university because I was considered a bit of a genius as a child and skipped a grade. I actually suspect that I might have some form of undiagnosed autism. If I do not, I still exhibit many symptoms anyway. I met my best female friend, who is also one of my dearest friends, in the third to last year of high school. I was very shy, and she was the most attractive person in my class, so I tended to avoid her because I was afraid she would think I had a crush on her if I approached her out of nowhere. We became friends during the last months of our final year. We discovered that we had similar opinions on religion, cinema, our teachers, and basically anything we discussed. I learned that she held my intelligence in high regard after all. Somehow, I managed to introduce her to European international football. All my former classmates are enrolled in different courses than mine at university, so I have only maintained contact with a few of them. Now, around 2 or 3 months ago, I had already improved my ability to interact with others, but I was still hesitant to ask people to hang out with me. However, by the end of February, I missed her so much that I finally made the proposal to meet. It was wonderful, and we promised to see each other again. We did meet again around the end of March, and we decided that for our next outing it was time to go to the cinema together, as films had played a significant role in the formation of our friendship. We had a streak on Snapchat, and she began sharing her location on the map. It is not that I found those last two activities particularly significant, but I thought they should be mentioned. During the week we were supposed to meet, she fell ill and wrote to me apologizing for our meeting not taking place. She did not suggest any other possible days, so a few days later I proposed some. She did not respond. In the meantime, she let the Snapchat streak expire and stopped sharing her location. While these are not inherently negative occurrences, I do not measure friendships through streaks or by constantly knowing where the other person is. In a normal situation, I would not have been overly concerned, but I wanted to add that perhaps they subconsciously increased my insecurity about the situation. I had a whirlwind of different feelings brewing inside me, and after some time had passed, I told her that I had something important to discuss with her. She replied that she would let me know when we could see or talk to each other. She never reached out again. I could not hold back any longer, so I wrote this unusually long message, even knowing that such matters are typically better conveyed verbally. Hello, her name. I have decided to write to you now so we do not prolong this topic any further. Whether you could not find a moment for a call or genuinely forgot to let me know due to other priorities, do not worry, I understand. I hope you find this long message appropriate for the situation. Synthesis. I wanted to essentially ask you how you feel about our friendship. The reason I ask is that, on one hand, I sense that something has gone awry recently, but on the other hand, I have never been skilled at interpreting unspoken signals. I struggle with chronic insecurity, which I am actually overcoming, I must admit, thanks to you. I hold you in high regard, and being respected by someone I admire is a significant confidence boost. This insecurity makes me doubt myself at the first sign of difficulty. Whenever I speak about our friendship, I mean to imply, this is how I perceive the situation, but I am aware that I could be mistaken. Elaborations. One thing I wanted to discuss with you on the day we were supposed to hang out is that, when it comes to making plans together, I am always the one to initiate. This has been the case for years. Back in high school, it felt fine for me since I lacked self-confidence for most of those years. For example, I would not speak to you because I thought you believed I did not deserve a conversation. So it seemed normal for you to sometimes not respond to messages or take days to reply, and it felt normal that I would be the one to initiate the conversation during the few times it happened. Perhaps now you can fully appreciate my very enthusiastic reactions whenever you suggested playing a card game at a classmate's party, something I would not have had the courage to propose, or when you invited me to study together for the university admission test. Although I have changed and now see that those instances were not a big deal, I cherish those moments for the joy they brought me. In the past few months, our relationship has changed for the better, I would say. If you consider that until 2 years ago I barely regarded myself as worthy of speaking to you, I find it a notable improvement in my confidence and our friendship that I am now able to ask you to hang out, dine, or go to the cinema together, as friends and nothing more, of course. What I do not understand, her name, is the difference in your behavior between when we are together and when we are conversing. If a person takes days to respond to a message, or forgets to, and never asks me first to hang out, my interpretation is that they want to remain kind and polite but do not wish to be friends in the deeper sense of the term, and that my messages are either too frequent or annoying. However, if that same person refers to me as a dear friend, expresses happiness when we meet, makes me feel joyful, agrees to go to the cinema with me, and shares personal, profound conversations, I am extremely pleasantly surprised but also somewhat confused. I essentially feel peaks of joy during the 2 to 3 hours we spend together, and then that feeling dissipates, leaving me, if I do not have other friends, with a longing desire to engage with someone which, by the way, I believe serves as a prime example of our nature as social beings. To avoid this situation, I have made some new friends at the university and stayed in touch with a few other old classmates as well. You remain nonetheless unique and special to me. I do not believe I have ever explained to you why, but you are mature, intelligent, and cultured, and your presence helps me find the adult, mature, beautiful side of myself. I have never once felt uncomfortable around you. Now I am aware that I am not your best friend, so I do not expect you to consider me your top priority. But imagine the past week from my perspective. You expressed that you would have very much liked to go to the cinema with me, so I asked you, and you accepted, making the prospect of seeing one of my dear friends a priority, not your fault. Then every potential day became unavailable because you were unwell, still not your fault. However, when you do not propose any alternative days and ignore my follow-up suggestions, it seems to me that for some reason you do not wish to see me or go to the cinema. To be honest, that is fine. I understand there could be numerous reasons you might not want to see me, but when your attitude shifts so drastically without an explanation, I am left thinking I must have done something wrong. I would appreciate knowing if that is the case. You mentioned that one of your shortcomings is that you sometimes struggle to communicate openly, but as a dear friend, I imagined you would feel no reluctance in informing me about any issues between us. Once again, whenever I convey how certain behaviors of yours affect me, I am not accusing you of anything. I recognize that my insecurities play a significant role, but I want this message to serve as a means to help you understand some recent events from my perspective so that you can clarify them from yours. I also want to emphasize that our friendship is genuinely important to me. I have attempted to exhibit the qualities, particularly maturity, that I believe a friend of yours deserves. I deeply value and respect you. I want to provide my best to you since you helped me find it where I did not believe it was possible. I would like to know how significant our friendship is for you and if I have done anything wrong recently. I think it is essential to communicate both of these aspects clearly. You may text me, call me, or meet me. Please let me know. If for any reason you do not wish to see me for a while and prefer to keep using Snapchat as our only means of occasional contact, I am perfectly fine with that. If you need to focus on your studies, we can wait until the end of the term. I would miss you, of course, but if I understand that this is what you need, I will endure it. I do not want my position as a best friend to burden you, as I am not yours. Regarding Snapchat, just to clarify, a long streak and you sharing your location are of course enjoyable aspects, but it was not the ending of either of those that prompted me to write this message. I do not use Snapchat as a metric for measuring the significance of my friendships. If we decide to, we can restart a streak whenever we choose, and I am unsure if knowing we were near each other at times without managing to meet was a positive experience for me, and I wanted to make this clear as well. Goodbye, her name. I hope I have not been inappropriate or wasted too much of your time. I trust that this will help us improve our friendship, so please do not perceive it as a complaint or anything of the sort. I wrote it with positive intentions despite evoking moments of sadness and confusion. I do not expect an immediate response or that you write as extensively as I did. You may take several days to reply. I do not want to rush you in any way. However, I would truly appreciate any form of response. I hold you in high regard. If you find the grammar or vocabulary to be somewhat odd, English is not our first language. I translated this message for you, fellow Redditors, and I can assure you it is much more natural in the original language. Yes, it is still longer than an essay, I am aware. She read it a week ago and has not responded. I do not even use the word yet because I know it will not happen. Yes, I realize I should not have written or sent it. Yes, I know I should have been patient and discussed this with her when the opportunity arose. However, I believe right now I would feel worse if I had kept everything bottled up inside. At this point, I know her well enough to be confident that our friendship is not completely or irreversibly severed in her eyes. I believe it can be salvaged. She is not the type to cut off all contact with me over something like this. However, I do think I may appear very strange to her now, and she will likely not initiate any further interaction. I am seeking ideas regarding what I should do next. I do not intend to reach out again until at least next weekend. I think it is worthwhile to wait and see if allowing her some space and time helps. Nonetheless, I do not plan to give up on this friendship unless she explicitly tells me it is over. If we were dating and had potential romantic interests, I would probably learn my lesson and move on, but this situation is different. Friends like her are hard to find. I am confident that she cares about our friendship to some extent as well. When I said I am not her best friend, I meant that she has a childhood friend who occupies that role, but her presence does not bother me at all. Although from what I wrote it may seem that our friendship is one-sided, it is not. The biggest issue is that I am uncertain whether I have done anything wrong and therefore you have no way of knowing either. Thank you for any advice you may provide. You are fully entitled to criticize many aspects of my behavior, but numerous elements of human relationships that might seem like common sense to you may be entirely unfamiliar to me. I am asking because I want to improve in this area. TLDR, a close friend of mine altered her behavior towards me, or at least that is my perception, and my perhaps overly sensitive nature thought writing her an unusually lengthy message would be a good idea, which likely only revealed my oddness and insecurities. This is a friendship worth saving, but she has not responded since, and I am torn between knowing she will not make the next move and realizing it is better to wait before reaching out again. Story 2. After 3 years together, my boyfriend's new girl best friend shattered everything. He went from "you're my everything" to "I need space." I begged him for a chance what happened to us, but as he posted selfies with her, I realized he was already gone. How did I not see the signs? November was the month we began experiencing problems because of her. We met during the pandemic and became accustomed to a world that centered around just the two of us. We have been in a relationship for approximately 3 years now. I am currently working and he has just started as a freshman in college. He mentioned that he returned to college for the sake of his future and ours. He used to feel proud of me whenever I visited him at his school. He never minded whether I was a male or a female. I was the one who frequently visited him, and that was never a concern for either of us. He always claimed that I was the one. When he started school, he often boasted about me to his friends. Eventually, he introduced me to all of them, and I felt so happy and excited. In November 2024, he introduced a girl to me through a chat saying he had a new friend. At some point in 2024, they began spending time together and he informed me about it. After school, he would update me, mentioning that they often went home together and that he felt comfortable with her. Initially, I did not react. However, when things started becoming uncomfortable, like when it began affecting our quality time together and they were constantly playing games, I began to feel uneasy. I tried to understand since I also returned home late from work. We discussed the issue extensively. He clarified that there was nothing more happening between them and told me the girl liked someone else, a girl, apparently, though she was also interested in guys. The issue is that I have never really been the type to open up about my feelings. Since childhood, I have always been a quiet, relaxed kind of person. We discussed boundaries, and I expressed what I was uncomfortable with, to which he agreed. He stated that he did not want to do anything that would jeopardize our relationship. Fast forward, we began experiencing ups and downs. Our issues always revolved around how they were together almost constantly at school, going home, and even playing games. I was okay with him engaging with others. I did not want to be controlling, however, I wanted him to allocate time for me as well. Even when I visited his home and spent time with him and his siblings, our arguments would arise whenever I voiced my feelings. He would accuse me of not trusting him. I explained that was not the point. I never accused him of anything. I allowed him to do his own thing, but I would inquire if he stayed out late or did not communicate with me, especially when the girl would invite him to play late at night. We created schedules so they could play at specific hours or days. I permitted it all because I did not want him to feel like I was interfering with his new environment and experiences, particularly since he had been out of school for such a long time due to the pandemic. Eventually, he confessed that I was not accustomed to this new side of him that involved friendships. He acknowledged that the girl was his best female friend. I already knew he was close to girls, but this time it was just one girl. I had no problem with him bonding with others. At one point, he mentioned he wanted to breathe. He had been feeling sad lately. He said we were partners, but he desired the freedom to go out if anyone invited him. I never prevented him, I just asked him to keep me updated. He expressed a desire to create memories with the people he loves, emphasizing that I was one of them. He mentioned that he might be asking for space because he was healing from the trauma of friendships that were always cut short or not long-lasting. He asserted that he wanted a healthy romantic relationship with me and a healthy circle of friends. I understood because I had also experienced something similar during my college years. He characterized himself as a free spirit and a social individual. He declared that all he needed was my trust, although I never accused him of anything. I allowed him to go out with them whenever they wanted. Back in August 2024, before he began school, I even suggested that we break up in case he wanted to explore this new phase of his life without any constraints. I did not want to hinder him. However, he stopped me and stated that I was one of the reasons he returned to school. He rejected the idea of a break and said that if we ever felt tired, we could pause but never break up. By 2025, he was eagerly anticipating holidays because of our staycations. We were able to spend time together and engage in deep conversations. We even discussed our relationship plans. He consistently emphasized the importance of trust, but then he mentioned that he was not ready for a relationship. This revelation took me by surprise. He expressed his love for me, but it felt insincere. I began to feel neglected. I had an instinctive feeling about our situation. Whenever we had an argument, particularly when I was at his house, he would often be on his phone, and I suspected he was venting to his best female friend. I noticed a message stating, "You're the only one I have right now." I mean, shouldn't couples compromise during conflicts? But he would withdraw and communicate with her instead. He consistently became defensive whenever we discussed her. They would go out together, frequently have lunch, travel home together, and he would always post stories about her. I started to observe how close they were becoming. He once shared a story of her looking at him while smiling. I attempted not to overthink, but it was challenging not to wonder. I questioned why his friends were not raising concerns about how those pictures appeared. He used to ask for permission to post pictures with her, but that was no longer the case. I tolerated their platonic relationship, even though it caused me pain and discomfort. I communicated my feelings multiple times but let it go because I trusted him. I loved him. I clung to that belief. In March, we were doing well. We even went on a date, exchanged gifts for our monthsary, and he held me tightly while we walked together. I felt confused but tried not to overthink. However, in April, during the first week, he unexpectedly asked for space again because he felt down. I kept seeing their stories together while I silently suffered. I assumed he needed a break from us, so I granted him space, even though he rarely messaged me. Eventually, I surprised him at his village and requested to talk. I broke down in tears. I shared that I was dealing with so much at home and work and even facing harassment, but I never divulged that to him because I did not want to burden him. I conveyed that I felt like he no longer viewed me as his partner. I asked if he still loved me, and he could not provide an answer. That's when I knew. He eventually stated that he still loved me, but when I inquired whether he still envisioned a future with me or if I was still the one, he did not respond. Instead, he cried. He expressed that he did not believe he could grow in our relationship any longer, despite having previously told me we could grow together. He claimed he was not ready for a relationship and that we were both not okay. I recognized that our relationship was not perfect. We encountered issues. He grew tired, so did I, yet I fought for us. I did not realize that while I was holding on, he was already letting go. He was quietly resigning. I asked him why it felt so swift. He replied that from my perspective, it seemed fast, but to him, it was slow. I pointed out that it was unfair for him not to have communicated that he was losing interest or feelings. I felt profoundly neglected. We were perfectly fine in March, and suddenly in April, when I was at my lowest, he revealed all of this to me. I wiped his tears and pleaded for another chance. I even knelt before him, just like in the movies. I had no idea that could occur in real life. I felt as though I had died that day. I told him that people around me were leaving, that I had no friends left because they advised me to leave the relationship. But I did not believe them. I only trusted him. I always defended him. I pleaded for one more chance, particularly because we were supposed to go on a staycation. But now he seemed indifferent. We did not discuss the breakup during the staycation. He merely mentioned that he wanted to enjoy himself. I expressed that I wished we had not gone. I even brought items that might remind him of our relationship, hoping he would fight for us. Yet I was the only one making an effort. A few days later, I suggested that we go out, and I informed him that I was on my way. He was surprised but agreed to come with me. I treated him to celebrate his exams. Yes, I was trying very hard. I thought perhaps if I remained, he would find a reason to stay as well. However, he stopped caring. He ceased treating me the way he used to. I understood I appeared desperate, but I held on because I believed he still loved me deep down. While we were out, I asked if we could take a picture and post it. He responded that we could take a photo on my phone, but he could not share it publicly. I immediately lost my appetite. I felt deeply hurt. He suggested we should simply enjoy the moment. I inquired why he could not share it anymore. I could not even cry. I was just devastated. Then he confessed that he had not been entirely truthful when I asked if he still loved me. He said he did love me, but not in a romantic way anymore. He no longer felt anything for me, yet he still wished for me to visit and spend time with his siblings. What was I to make of that? He insisted he was not abandoning me or the relationship, but he wanted things to remain unchanged without the romance. I pleaded for us to try again. I requested that he not break up with me yet because I was going through so much and was already experiencing depression. Was he expecting me to accept everything as it was? I expressed it was unfair how quickly he had moved on and how easily he had lost his feelings. He had not even made an effort. He used to claim that no matter how serious our fights were, we never resorted to breaking up. I asked why I had become so easy to give up on. I inquired whether he had shared the details of our problems with his best female friend or anyone else. He stated no, yet I knew he was lying. You cannot be that comfortable in pictures together without having discussed anything. My instincts told me he was not being honest. He posted pictures where the girl looked at him with a smile or he gazed at her as if she meant everything. I tried to convince myself it was merely a picture. I dismissed my own feelings. Perhaps I was just being dramatic. He had been dishonest. On one occasion, he updated me that he was heading to class, only for him to later claim they had no class and that his best female friend had invited him over. He asked me not to inform his parents. He went to her place and posted more photos again, looking relaxed as if he did not have a girlfriend. But I suppose, technically, he did not feel anything for me anymore, so maybe I had no right to feel hurt. At this moment, I do not know how to feel. I feel numb. Yet I am not truly numb, I am emotionally shut down. We have not officially discussed breaking up, but I sense that I am the only one holding on. It feels as though we may have already broken up that day. I contemplated cutting contact, but I have not yet done so.